All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. As always, we have a great event on tap. I'm really excited about this one. We have demos and all kinds of good stuff. But before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later on. Following today's webinar, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. The webinar is also going to be living on the DevOps.com website too, so you can always find it there. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for any of our speakers, please don't wait, don't hesitate, just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your question. And we'll try to get to as many as we can near the end of today's webinar. Also, at the end of today's presentation, we are doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So please stick around. Hopefully you will be one of our 4 lucky winners. All right, we'll go ahead and kick off today's webinar now, which is Wishes Do Come True, Fast Development, Secure Delivery. Our speakers today are Tomas Gonzalez, who is a partner architect at Snyk, Sam Olukotan, who is a solutions engineer at CircleCI, and Rob Cresswell, who's architect at Snyk. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. Really excited about today's presentation. Appreciate you being here. And Tomas, you're going to get us started, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take myself off camera, put myself on mute, and let you get right to it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlene. That was a lovely introduction, very festive, much appreciated. We do have a great lineup for you today with Rob and Sam and myself here to talk to you about the combination of fast and secure delivery. Sam, if you could go to the next slide real quick to go over what we have for you today. So first off, we're going to be talking about, Sam will talk about continuous delivery, how that fits into CircleCI's paradigm. Then after that, we're going to hand it over to Rob. Rob will talk to us about continuous security. So you can see continuous is definitely a trend that we're going to be latching onto as a theme for this presentation. After that, we're going to see all this in action in the form of a demonstration. Then, as Charlene indicated, we'll be opening it up for questions. I also will be moderating questions as they come in on the GoToWebinar chat and questions feature. So if you have any during the presentation, please feel free to ask. Now, without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and kick it off. Sam, I will now pass this over to you.
Thank you, Thomas. As Thomas mentioned, I will be talking about continuous delivery over the next few minutes. And when we talk about continuous delivery, we usually talk about that within the context of CI/CD. CI being continuous integration and the CD half being continuous delivery. So when we talk about continuous integration itself, we're usually talking about the practice of building and testing the changes to your code base and to your user environments using automated tools. The key idea here being that the process is automated. When we talk about continuous delivery, on the other hand, what we're talking about is the practice of automatically deploying those software changes you've made to your target environments. So you can think of the continuous integration piece as the automatically integrating and building all the changes you've made, and the continuous delivery aspect as getting those changes to your consumers who are actually going to use your product. So when we take a step back and we look at CI/CD together, what we're really talking about is CI, which is pulling in your changes to your code base. You can think of this as your feature implementations, your bug fixes. That's coming in from your code base, be it GitHub or Bitbucket. You're pulling that into your CI. The CI platform is also running your unit tests, your end-to-end tests. The CI platform will also be responsible for doing things like running your security test or scanning for vulnerabilities. And the CD aspect is what handles the deployment to your production endpoints. So with that said, why do people invest in continuous integration at all? Some of the benefits of implementing continuous integration for yourself and for your teams is that it increases the amount of communication and the collaboration that you have around your code base. Furthermore, having continuous integration allows you to run your automated tests to validate your builds. This, along with the last point we make of the continuous feedback loops, really helps to guarantee the quality of your code base through all the changes you're making. The fact that once you make a change to your code base, you get instantaneous feedback on whether that is breaking your test or whether that is breaking your builds allows you and your team to maintain the quality of your code over a longer period of time. Some other benefits of continuous integration is that only the code that has been tested is integrated into the code base. This is one of those side effects that actually ends up ensuring that you maintain quality over the course of your project. And also the idea of merging changes frequently into your release branch plays into what I'm going to talk about in terms of the continuous delivery aspect, which is that you tend to have faster release cycles, the fact that you have this automated process. You also have the ability to trigger on-demand releases because you tend to have your branches that are always ready and set for a deployment at any point in time. The quality benefits of the continuous integration part also lead to lower risk releases as well as the higher quality releases, going back to that idea of maintaining the quality of your code base I was talking about earlier, and having higher quality releases, having less bugs to fix in production, then ends up leading to lower costs for your project overall. So that's CI/CD as an intro. So now where does CircleCI fit into this conversation? CircleCI as a CI/CD platform, you can think of us as the orchestration engine that ties in your code and collaboration tools as well as your runtime concerns. So when I say code and collaboration, I'm typically talking about your source control endpoints. I'm talking about the tools you use for code review, for issue tracking, for dependency management. All of that comes into your code collaboration. And when you do things like push commits or trigger pull requests, CircleCI starts to run things like your test automation. We do like integration to container registries. This is where all the automation starts to kick off in between the code that you're pushing in and the runtime where you want those artifacts or those binaries to be deployed to. To take a look at it in a different way, you can think of CircleCI as the orchestration engine that sits between your creation and the logistics for your application. The creation being where you write your code, where you make your changes, and logistics being where you deploy those changes for your customers to actually use them. So with all of that said, at CircleCI, we like to say that our mission is to make it as easy as possible to go from your idea to delivery. And if we take a step back to this image here, the whole idea of being able to go from idea to delivery is that you create your ideas here, you do your bug fixes, you do your feature implementation, and CircleCI makes it easy, seamless, efficient, and automated to get everything you need to do in between getting your products out into the hands of your customers. So CircleCI as a company, we were founded in 2011. We are now sitting at over 300 employees spread across 5 continents. We help teams build better software. We help them do that quicker, and we help them do that more reliably. Furthermore, we're currently the world's largest shared CI/CD platform, and we got there by running over 1 million builds per day on our platform. At the bottom of this slide here, you'll see a few of our customers, for instance, Stitch Fix, Spotify, Coinbase, and this just goes to show you the scale at which CircleCI is currently running. At this point, I'd like to take a step back from the slides and give you a brief introduction to the platform for those who have not seen CircleCI before. So what I am showing here is a workflow on CircleCI that I'm currently building on a sample project. If we take a step back from this, what I'm doing at a high level here is I am running a build and test job. It automatically deploys to staging. When I get to staging, I hold it for a canary deployment. And so what the idea I am implementing here is that we have a team of QA engineers who come in, they do a visual inspection on staging, and if they are happy with that, they can come in here and promote this job to the canary environment. If I do decide to approve this job for the canary deploy, once that approval registered, you will see here that the deploy to canary job will automatically kick off, and there we go. And so on the right, after the deploy canary, I'm repeating the same paradigm here, where I hold the workflow at the deploy canary step. We go in, we evaluate our metrics, we evaluate our targets, and if the canary environment is behaving as expected, then we can promote the build to production. So just to zoom in here a little bit so we can talk about some of the features that I'm taking advantage of here. Oh, sorry, back a little too far. So here, for instance, on the left, I'm running my build and test jobs in parallel. What I'm taking advantage here is the parallelism and concurrency that is built into the CircleCI platform. In this particular example, I am running these 2 jobs together in parallel because they don't have a dependency on each other. Theoretically speaking, I could have a project in which I am running 5 jobs in parallel, perhaps 10 jobs in parallel, or even up to 100 jobs in parallel. On CircleCI, we allow you to do all of that without having to worry about provisioning additional infrastructure to service each of those individual pieces. So essentially, you can think of CircleCI and the backend as dynamically scaling the CI/CD infrastructure for you for whatever amount of resources that your pipeline demand. The deploy staging job here will wait until both the build and test have succeeded before it starts running. And so this is that idea of the approval job that I took advantage of, which is that it halts the entire pipeline and waits for a manual intervention. So again, the rest of this is just basic features here. I'm also taking advantage of the deployment to multiple endpoints, because from this particular workflow, I can deploy to a canary server, I can deploy to a production server, and I'm also deploying to my staging server over here. So how does all of this get set up on CircleCI? If you're coming from a tool like Jenkins, for instance, you're probably used to configuring things in the UI. On CircleCI, we do everything in a config file. So this is a YAML file that you check into the root of your source code. And as you see, as a YAML file, you don't need to learn any additional scripting languages to pick up CircleCI. The 2 big aspects of the config file I want to point out in doing this demo is the jobs section, which is a collection of all the commands you need to accomplish a specific task. For this particular example, the tasks I care about are the build, the test, and my deploy jobs. For the build job, these are the collection of commands I'm running. And so beginning on line 36 here, you can see what I mean by the idea of this being just a collection of commands. These are all commands that you could theoretically run at your terminal to get the exact same result. The key benefit here is that you can group them within a logical unit and run them at the same time automatically. You see here on line 30, I'm also using the Docker environment to run this particular job. On CircleCI, we support doing things within Docker containers. You could also do this within a Linux VM, a Windows VM, or a macOS VM. On line 35, I take advantage of the resource class, which is a feature that allows you to specify the size of the resource within which you want to run that build job. And I point this all out just to show that between your resource classes, which on CircleCI, we have the options of choosing from small, medium, large, all the way up to 2XL plus. So between all of those options for resource classes and your options for execution environments, you do have a breadth of options for what you can use for your projects. And so regardless of what you're building today or what projects you might need to build in the future, CircleCI has the infrastructure to support you and your teams. Lastly, before I go back to the